Okay, so this is my first lecture recorded on my new microphone. Hopefully, you can hear the deep sound and the timbre of my voice. And hopefully, it'll be a little bit better. So, we're going to talk about animal cognition today. And in order to make the video go smoothly, I'm just going to put the links to the other videos on the description, and I'll just move forward as if you've paused, clicked on the link, and seen the video. Um, you can click on the links now, or do it in your own order, but that's how that's the narrative fiction I'm gonna take today. We're gonna start with questioning how unique humans are, talk about something called intentionality, which has already come up before, but now I'm gonna get into it, and then just get into animal cognition. Relevant backgrounds here. I think the objections to the strong AI program, whether computers could genuinely be intelligent, that is going to be an interesting thing to consider, because a lot of the objections are going to be very much the same. Similarly, we're going to talk about evolution, and a lot of the issues with evolutionary psychology might come up here, or it might be at a different scale, so those might not be problems. And I want you to remember conceptual innateness more for the next video than for this one, um, although it will be relevant for this video as well. This is the basic idea that where do concepts come from? How do we break up the world? And maybe animals can give us insight in how we do it based on how they do it. Um, so that'll be more relevant in the next lecture. So what makes humans unique? Well, you could go biologically and say, okay, we have 23 pairs of chromosomes, except a lot of us, or some of us don't, right? So there are people with Down syndrome or any of the other trisomy disorders where you have one more or less chromosome. And it tends to happen with chromosomes 8, 9, 13, 18, 21, and 22, and the sex chromosome, because other chromosomes, if you mess with them, it kills the human before it's, or we die before we're born. It's spontaneous abortions. We are very genetically similar because a couple of thousand years ago, our ancestors went through what's called a population bottleneck. There were only a couple of hundred or thousand of our ancestors that were around, so we are all essentially cousins. We have a high degree of genetic similarity compared to other species, even other mammals. But it gets crazy when you try to compare to um, non-human or non-eukaryote creatures like bacteria, such as E. coli, where as little as 20% genetic similarity can be shared between two separate E. coli bacteria. We are upright. That's kind of cool. We have the highest brain to body size ratio of any creature, 40% higher than dolphins. This is sometimes called encephalization, but we just have the highest ratio. We have a long childhood, one of the longest, if not the longest. And we split off from chimpanzees about 6 million years ago. So all of the ones before this, before the splitting off from chimpanzees, could occur in other creatures, right? There's nothing magical about not having 23 chromosomes that makes you a human or not. But being related to chimpanzees is, that's a historical feature of life here on Earth, and that's pretty unique to humans. Well, and bonobos. When we try to go into more abstract territory, try to figure out what makes us particularly unique in other ways, we have a pretty thorough grasp of language, writing, and culture, right? So we can pass ideas on to each other and scaffold culture, build it up. we can cooperate with each other. That will come up in the intentionality section. I misspelled cooperation. Please ignore that. If you had, 30 students in a room, they would listen to a professor. If you have 30 chimpanzees in a room the same size, they would kill each other. We have an understanding of ourselves and other minds. We have superstition, mythology, religion, art. Those seem pretty interesting, maybe unique, maybe not. We have a capacity for abstract thought and for thinking about the future, for planning. We also have science, technology, and society, which is the title of another class that I'm teaching this semester. So, all right, those are interesting. I'm not sure how unique they are, and I'm not sure even if they are unique, whether it matters. But we should keep those in mind in the back of our minds when we start seeing animal language and animal cooperation and animal mind reading, animal art, the abstract thought, the being able to infer tool use from tools you've never seen before. So maybe we aren't that unique in some respects, or maybe we're at an extreme. But this is a particular approach that might make us feel happy if we put it all together all at once. But you could probably make an equal chart for any species, or an equal list for any species. There's lots of things that make any species unique. So I thought I would do a, hopefully you can't hear the air conditioner just turned on. I have to record these classes between air conditioning turning on. My office just doesn't seem to care who's here or not. But okay. So I thought I would make a family tree of all of the species that we're going to be talking about in this lecture and the next one. In biology, this is called a phylogeny. And I spent quite a bit of time trying to make sure that this is accurate. And it is as accurate as something like this could be. So we're going to be talking about memory, about numbers, about interpreting other creatures' intentions, and about concepts. And memory, we're going to specifically talk about this cluster of creatures on the left. So the way to interpret a phylogeny, I don't know if any of you have ever taken biology classes before, but imagine that each of these branching points can pivot around without loss. So horse, cow, and killer whale could be after elephant and before capuchin monkey. It would be the same. It's just like spinning around. It's easier to do if I show you. The only thing that the branching tells you is relationships between one branch and the rest of the branches. So elephants are as closely related to capuchin monkeys as they are to killer whales, as they are to horses and chimpanzees. Crows are as related to elephants as gray parrots are to cows, right? That's what the branching tells you. Hopefully that makes sense. So we'll study memory. We'll talk about memory in all of these creatures to the left. We'll talk about numerosity, that is the ability to count, ability to think about units in these creatures that are highlighted in purple. We'll talk about theory of mind, being able to interpret other creatures' mental states in everything. Actually, we are also going to talk about it with horses. What are we talking about? We definitely are. And then we're going to talk about concepts with humans, chimpanzees, and a gray parrot. Okay? So just to show that billion, nearly a billion or 3/4 of a billion years ago, our common ancestor with octopi nevertheless gave rise to two descendants that are very, very different, that are that have decent memories and possibly theory of mind. And so we'll talk about those. It just goes to show you that these things might be very, very old, or they might pop up a lot. They might be easy to evolve. Okay. So one thing that's particularly tricky with animal cognition is that animals don't speak. At least most of them don't. I don't know why that should be so tricky or so worrying, but what we have to do to study them is either observe how they behave in nature or in laboratory settings, or experiment on them. But it's not quite the same as what we do with pre-linguistic humans, right? Like you can study how a baby interacts in a lab or in your house and learn a lot about it. But humans are very similar to babies, whereas we're not that similar to non-human animals. And so studying non-human animals, we have to be very careful that we're not imparting our own goals and agenda onto them. It'd be roughly the equivalent of having a non-human animal study a human child, right? Like what conclusions would they draw, and would we feel comfortable and confident that they drew the right conclusions? Okay, I'm gonna stop this video now, wait for the air conditioning to turn off, and listen to the sound, and then see you guys in the next couple of videos.